Hello, my friends, and welcome to another week of my video vlogging because I can't seem to write still because I am so deep into my book. And this week I have really been delving into the idea of whiteness. It's a huge part of my book, I Don't See Color, that whiteness is a worldview. And I was confronted with this week when my daughters started watching The Summer I Turned Pretty. The youngest one has been reading the book, and she didn't realize that Belly was Asian, and she'd imagined her as white. And interesting for a girl who has me as a mother and has lived in Portugal for 2 years. But it really just reminded me of how white is the norm. White is the baseline, and white perspectives are considered universal. And I saw today that clip by Toni Morrison. Funnily enough, it's from 60 Minutes years ago. And an Australian woman, I can't remember her name, is interviewing Toni Morrison. And she asks her when she will be including white characters in a substantial way in her writing. And Toni Morrison looks her dead in the eye and says, "You are so unaware of how racist that question even is." And she is, because when we live within white as a worldview, we don't think that any other view is important or any other view is substantial. And whiteness centers itself. So if you live within a white world and everything around you is white, which I lived in Australia for a really long time, and that's what it is there. It's a whiteness as a worldview. You believe that white is the norm and that everything else is special or niche. And it's been really interesting living in Portugal because that whiteness travels. And you look at the expats here. I don't hang out with a lot of white expats here. It's really interesting. Since I have left Australia, I have much less white friends. I think I only have one or two left, and the rest of them are of the global majority. The people I work with are in the global majority. Like whiteness as a worldview has shifted in the last 2 years dramatically. And the reason for this is because when white people move out of their white bubble, they bring whiteness with them. And some of the stories, some of the things people have said here have really slapped me out of whiteness as a worldview. Because the absolute privilege of whiteness follows you. It gets into your system, into your ways of thinking, into your very being until you do not understand anything except for your perspective and whiteness. And that is where that journalist was coming from when she asked Toni Morrison the question of, "Hey, are you ever going to center white readers?" And Toni Morrison turns around and is just like, no one asks black, brown, no one asks white writers when they will be centering black, brown, Indigenous people of color, right? No one asks that, but they ask the brown people, when are you going to be centering white people? And I thought about this. I've seen that clip so many times, but this morning I looked at it and I went, holy fuck, I've been doing that. I have been centering whiteness in my writing, even though I made the decision over a year ago, a while back now, not to center whiteness, to stop reading authors who are white. Just, I'm trying to not watch television from white perspective. That one's a little harder because there's a lot of people involved making television. But books, especially, like not reading books from white perspectives and making sure that I'm trying to consume media from a lot of different sources that are not white, right? And yet I was editing my book and reading through it, and I noticed how I caveat myself, how I kowtow to whiteness, how I say little things, and how I prioritize whiteness and white fragility before I even prioritize myself. And it was shocking to me. Because as someone who's been doing this work and has been looking at it and has been picking it apart, I was still doing it. I was still doing it. And if you've been reading my work and been involved in my work for the last little while, and you've been thinking, Jesus Christ, she's pretty unhinged and says some pretty out there stuff, I mean, hold on to your hats, darlings, because it's probably going to get worse. Because I've realized I have not been going far enough. I have not been sinking my teeth into it. I really need that archetype and that fierceness of Toni Morrison to be like, absolutely fucking not. We have centered whiteness for so long. White stories have been told. White history has been written. We hash and rehash. We quote white writers. I mean, we herald them and we hold them up. And I mean, even now, when we understand what shitty characters these white people were, how many of them stole from their wives, how many of them stole from Black, Brown, Indigenous knowledges and just were the ones to coin it and, make it legitimate. And, it's not cool until a white person says it's cool. As much as we know this, we still center whiteness. And I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. So my writing has become a lot sharper in my book. There's a lot. I deleted like 2 whole pages where I explained what empire is, because I realized, and it's so funny because I actually sent a version of part 1 to a really good friend of mine who is not white, who is a woman of the global majority. And I said to her, oh, I've cut out all that stuff about, explaining what empire is, but in the book it's there. And she said, why? I didn't need it. And I realized the only people who asked me to explain what empire is are white people, because they live within it and they benefit from the systems, and they do not, and they need me to explain it to them. They need me to, because they don't see it, they don't see it like we do. Whereas we of the global majority, practitioners of the global majority, we've felt it, we've understood it, we've lived it. And what I am doing in my book is actually just giving language to what is a felt sense already. So 2 whole pages have gone from my book of explanation. There is just huge chunks of text where I have just deleted explaining myself. And there is a much more felt sense to the book, because you guys already know what I'm talking about. You don't need me to explain the mechanisms behind it. You don't need me to quote, researchers and ideas. You guys have lived it. You guys have lived it like I have lived it. And this, I think, is my gift to women of the global majority, practitioners of the global majority, is to sharpen your voice as well. Because I've had to do it, and I've had to look very deep and really, like, I'm a good writer, right? Like, I've practiced this craft. I mean, I was good at it and I've practiced it a lot, but I can be better by not explaining myself so much, not apologizing for myself, and not centering whiteness. So because of that, I mean, I've said this a few times, that my priority is practitioners of the global majority, because we have a felt sense, because I don't have to explain to you, because you get me, I get you, right? And I am constantly doing the work of unpacking this. I'm constantly diving deeper. And I just think to myself, like, if you felt this, if you understand this like I understand it, but you haven't delved in deep enough and unpicked it, like, it's still running your life. You are still unconsciously apologizing and explaining yourself away, because you've internalized whiteness too. So who are you protecting? Is your voice clear and precise? Because if it's not, then it's my job to help it be.